What up, ladies and gentlemen? Here with another awesome interview with none other than Mr. Evan Taylor, um, a man whose qualifications are, everywhere. It's really cool to see. Someone who's worked with Mr. Bernie Worrell of Parliament Funkadelic and loads of other stuff, loads of awesome stuff. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. Really
Yeah.
appreciate it.
So first, I do want to talk about, Bernie Worrell. How did you, start leading the orchestra? How did you get into, releasing the album? How did any of this come to be?
Well, it's been pretty broad, so it's a little bit of a journey here. It started when I was kind of between albums. I recently made like kind of a large scale album that took a while, and I was trying to think of what the next move was, and and I had always respected Bernie and always wanted to work with him in some capacity. So I just decided I would go for it and contact his manager, who's also his wife, and try to state my case. And which originally wasn't a case at all. It was just, hi, can I work with Bernie? And the answer was, please come up with a concept of any sort, and we'll start talking about this. So I thought about doing a jazz standards funk style record because it seemed like we wouldn't have to spend a lot of time writing songs. The publishing would be pretty simple. Um, and we embarked on that, made it in probably 2 days of tracking and 2 days of mixing, and that came out to mixed reviews. But it was the launching point for everything from then on. We we kind of soon after started the Bernie Worrell Orchestra, which was a 10-piece band initially, and we made about two albums with that outfit, and toured. It was great.
Awesome. Yeah, that's so cool. It's always amazing when you're like, I guess, like the person you look up to is just an email away. That's happened to me with so many people, where they either like respond via email, which is so sick, that you can just
Yeah.
meet your legends via the internet, or whenever they have like a really sick manager that's down to do something as long as you're motivated and super easy to work with, that's always a dream. And sometimes it
Yeah.
doesn't happen, but when it does, like in your case, it really is a dream come true.
It really is the best when you have that kind of close connection where people are receptive and open. I think that like it just is it's the most exciting thing to get that correspondence when it's a yes and you're like, okay, well, I guess we're doing this now.
I know it really is. And like one of the first moments I've had of that was when I went on a cruise for the first time. It was like my mom's big dream. So we went on a cruise, and the whole time I was emailing people, and I was getting big responses from like the biggest interviews I'd had, up to that point. And it was so sick that everyone was just ready to do something, giving me the dates, really forward. I love that. I really do. And you talked about the mixed reviews. If you don't mind talking about that, what did the critic reviews mean to you as an artist?
Well, by mixed reviews, I mean that, some people thought it was gonna go down as a hidden gem, and other people thought it was, um, can I censor? Do I need to censor
No,
myself?
no, no, man.
Other people thought it was complete bullshit. So, um, they're just like Bernie Worrell trying to play standards, like just have him play funk, please. Um, and I thought it was cool that he was doing something pretty interesting with standards, but it's always like that, no matter what it is. I mean, like the album I'm promoting now, I'm sure there are quote haters and stuff like that, but I don't even read reviews at this point because it doesn't matter. I enjoyed the process. The people who were part of it enjoyed it. We shared our joy together and our moment together and created something that was really fulfilling to us. So I want people to like it. I want people to enjoy it, and I want people to be outspoken about their feelings. But on the other hand, you know, like I don't have to read everyone's comments and opinions.
Of course, yeah. I completely understand, especially in the industry that I'm in, which is very closely connected to yours, right?
Yeah,
Um, there's always going to be dickheads and people that don't get it or people that are overstepping. And yeah, it's like, the pitchfork thing where how much credibility do you really have if you keep giving these like crazy reviews and then you get bought out by a big company and critics are like always all over the place. But I think the best
yeah,
will always be audience reception. And for the people that thought that, it isn't cool for a funk guy to do standards, it's so dumb. Like
yeah, and
branching out is the whole point of music, I think.
exactly. And like before he was a funk guy, he was a classical guy.
Yeah.
That's what people don't even realize. But like, so he always embraced a lot of styles of music. But the thing is, with my journey making records, there are many things on that record I think I could have done better, and I was young when I was making that record, so like to be in that position in like a major studio with Bernie Worrell, making decisions with session musicians who were noteworthy. It was a lot that I had to manage, and the fact that I wasn't overwhelmed was probably a sign of my immaturity. That I was just like, oh, this is cool, this is fine. Like I should have been like, oh wow, this is really a lot to handle right now. Like I really have to focus on this. But like, you kind of learn it from both ends. You learn to ease up on certain things and crack down on other things. So it's just the nature of what you do. I'm sure it's the same with your line of work. Like, what's if you don't mind me asking a question now, what was the learning curve for you to get into this?
I spoke too much sometimes.
Hmm.
And I remember like it was Mark Arm of Mudhoney, who awesome dude, but he is a little bit on the quiet side, right? And so that I've never really interviewed when I was me back then. I didn't interview someone who spoke like that and who like materialized their thoughts like that. And so I kind of filled up the empty space with my yaps. And getting those like comments and internet warriors saying stuff kind of hurt, but I'm glad they did so I could figure it out, learn it, and then not make these mistakes now.
Yeah, I mean, it's the nature of it,
Hmm.
and it's interesting that you mentioned like filling up that space. It's like the same thing we do as musicians with music.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
usually, live is filling up that space, and the way you do it and how you choose to work with that space can be very can be a subject of a lot of I don't know, debate over exactly how you should be filling that space, and also what you should be doing artistically, like how you should be filling your career artistically. And that's the whole standards dilemma, is like what's right for Bernie. And it's funny because some people like what was right for Bernie was for him to make his own mind up. It wasn't really for someone to tell him what he should do with this. Well, he should do whatever he wants at this time. If he
exactly.
wants to go on vacation, he should go on vacation and not play funk. But I don't know.
Yeah, that's the complete right way of thinking about it, and not letting people get to your head is the best way I think of it. And what I think is, when people write these dumb comments, or when people, my friends will like just write stupid stuff, it's just helping get your stuff out there. For
Yeah,
me, it's like the algorithm. When it sees people typing, it'll push it out more. And for reviews, press is press.
it is. Yeah, I mean, the point is like, as long as people are talking about something, like that's pretty ideal in the first place. The worst thing is for
Exactly.
something to go completely unnoticed.
Yeah. And
And
especially because we're not politicians or anything. We're not doing like war crimes or crazy illegal activities. It's an album, it's music.
yeah, exactly. At the end of the day, that's the thing. And I think that there is on one of the songs in the album, we got um, some audio from Bernie's talkback mic where he was leading the band, and he just said at one point, "It's just music," and we left it in the track. It's called "Soldiers of the Stars," and you just hear him go, "It's just music," and it is. It really all this is. It's entertainment. Like we're consuming entertainment, and entertainment can be really like groundbreaking, compelling. It can be like dramatic, political, emotional, whatever adjective you want to place on it, but like and it's essential to the functioning of culture,
Mhm.
and of society. I personally believe in entertainment and the arts. We can just let's just say the arts. That's a little better said. But but um, but at the same time, it is like if you're getting bent out of shape over the new whatever album, then you're probably wasting your time. I don't know.
Yeah.
I think so. There are
Well,
way
it's
better
made to
things to
entertain,
do.
you know?
Yeah, it's made to entertain you. It's escapism. It's like it really is like, you know, an album is a respite from your life unless it's something that draws attention to your life or to injustice in your society or to whatever, but it still is a way at looking through things through a different lens. And
Exactly.
it's like seeing a movie or whatever. And that's like what I think the purpose is it's still a little bit of escapism. You could still say that you know, like but then bring up an album like What's Going On by Marvin Gaye. Is that escapism when it's really a social statement? Like it's it's looking through something through a lens, but in a way it's bringing a different perspective that is educating and illuminating things for people. But either way, it's still taking people out of a normal comfort zone and placing them in front of something new, and that's very cool. And but I think that not everything is what's going on, you know and sometimes it's just simplicity is nice. Simplicity is nice too. um I'm going in circles with my concepts right now, which is just how I think about art, where it's full of all sorts of contradictions, and that's the beauty of it.
Beautifully said. Yeah. And like what we said before, it's all entertainment and living a life where you do the same things every day and you listen to the same albums every day and you have the same work every day. And I mean, that's a life for some people. And I just think maybe for you and me, it's not the best way and the most fulfilling way to live out this one chance you have on earth. I don't want to be listening to Marvin Gaye every day, but it's a great album.
Yeah,
It really is. But
it's
the
yeah,
changes and everything is what makes it all beautiful. And like you said, different lenses. different periods of time, different genres. And genre sucks, you know? We want to change, we want to combine, and we do weird stuff. So these labels aren't really great for anything, but just doing different and uh yeah, just doing different, doing stuff that you want to do truly and doing what's fulfilling is I think what matters most in life.
Yeah, I think that it's finding finding purpose in your life is really
Exactly.
what's important, and I find that through music. And some could call that really amazing and in touch with just, I don't know, sonic emotion or whatever. Or you could say it's very selfish because it's like, I'm playing with instruments all day and having fun on a good day. But but yeah, I don't know. It's just like that's the another discussion I've always had is like when is you know I guess I have to think about this for a second.
Yeah,
When is your art really serving, and when is your art being very self-serving and serving the greater good, or being self-serving? And the last thing I would want to do is ever like create like a vanity project as a professional. I think that if someone wants to do that for just that purpose, that's really beautiful. And if people find it relaxing to play music as a novice, that's great. But for me, it would be very hard for me to work really hard on something and for it to go down like that. And that's probably due to my narcissism. So I don't know.
I mean the first, if you can admit that, because everyone has some amount of selfishness and self-caringness, which is, I mean, it's a good thing. It's human nature, but being able to admit it is really important, I think. And like you said, playing music is fun on a good day. I've been in orchestra since I could talk, or playing instruments since I could talk. And sometimes these orchestra sessions are a living hell because you're getting yelled at by the conductor. No one practiced. Everyone sounds like dog, and you have to build it up from the ground up. So it's not always this utopia that I think a lot of people imagine it to be. And there's a certain view of musicians and music and doing music, you know, for a lifetime that that an amount of the public has that is, in a way selfish. I would say more selfish than being a musician. And selfishness, right? Like I said, you're on this life, you're in this planet. I guess there's a certain amount of selfishness that you should have to enjoy your time and to make the most of it, you know? Because if you have no selfishness, and if you spend your life completely throwing yourself for others, which you should do a little bit of it, throwing yourself for others entirely is a very noble cause. But if it doesn't bring you joy, if it doesn't bring you happiness, and if you feel empty, then what's the point? And
Yeah,
that's
I
like
think
the
that
catch
it's
22.
it is like sort of an essential trait, and I wish there was another word to use
Exactly.
for that. But but yeah, like the we have ingrained traits in us to survive,
Of course.
and a lot of it's evolutionary. That we have like all sorts of there's reasons our body functions in certain ways because of these things that I wouldn't call like self-serving, but are basically just to keep us alive. But
Yeah,
um, but yeah, I think that there is a little bit of that in being being an artist, like to put yourself out. Like there's something like, and I say this about like politicians too, but like to
mhm,
put yourself out there in public or however you do it, I mean, I'm more in the studio than like I play out, but I'm mostly, in the background. Uh, but I do put out my own music. But to put yourself out there does require like a certain personality type where you are kind of semi-socially fearless, and
Mhm.
that's like a nice way of saying like, you know, have some narcissism. And Even though those two definitions didn't really seem to match that well, but I think that yeah, I feel that way because it really is. It's funny because sometimes you see like a really like gentle singer-songwriter playing their songs in front of like a bunch of people and stage banter that's cute and witty, and then you're like, well, this person has this capacity to do this. They must think somewhere, it could be deep down or it could be like completely out there, somewhere that they're doing the right thing. And I'm not saying they're not, but I'm just saying it's interesting. It's
It
it's
definitely is.
it's pretty interesting that like and that actually completely coincides with being a producer. Like when you're a producer, it's not really that you like think that you know better than everybody. It's just that like you have to be the point person to make things come together, and to volunteer for that job uh, takes a level of, I don't know, just being either, it can be willing to fall flat on your face in a situation, or like having a certain amount of confidence that you won't. And that's like kind of the dialectic there, it's just like it's both. It's like being willing to embarrass yourself and also believing that you won't.
Yeah, the musician's special trait is always the confidence and the sometimes hidden confidence, you know? A lot of musicians I've met are really upfront, confident, and cool and collected. And sometimes it's hidden and it's more in the music that they play rather than the personality. But either way, like you said, the fearlessness and the willingness to throw yourself out there is really something special and definitely shouldn't be frowned upon in society like I think some people do frown upon it. It's weird. But then again, what 80 years or whatever of the way people have been conditioned to think. And I'm not trying to sound like a conspiracy theorist, but the way people have been conditioned to think and people have settled into these, daily activities. And sometimes it's like you think, is this the right thing? Am I doing it just to do it? And challenging those beliefs is I think something that every musician does, whether they're born into it or whether they're in a family that um, doesn't like that kind of stuff. But just challenging the norms is very admirable, I think I'd say.
I agree. I mean, there's like there are like all these different, archetypes of like musicians. There are people who challenge the norms. There are people uh, who keep that shit alive, who basically continue on with the tradition, and and the list goes on. And they're all admirable, but it definitely there is something about um, when I see a musician who is willing to sacrifice fans to try a new genre, or like I think that's I always think that's kind of cool, like and I guess like you can say like the parallel is with like followers by like putting a new song that someone might not like. I'm not talking about like anything political or whatever, but just like, for instance, someone who uses acoustic instruments suddenly going electronic and using like, synthesizers or modular synths and stuff like that, and like just completely does something different. And like this actually did happen, and with an artist, and it doesn't really matter if I name the person or not because they're pretty big, but he is known for using a lot of acoustic instruments and really organic sounds. And then he did a show that was all modular synthesis, and and he didn't seem to really indicate that he would be doing that on that tour.
Mhm.
So people bought their tickets anyway, expecting like one thing, and then like I saw people just leave. I was into it. I thought it was cool. But like I saw people just like start to just like leave and like funnel out because it was different. But like in a way you could have just been like, why don't you sit through, okay, it's going to be what, an hour and a half of your life, and maybe see if there's anything of merit or interesting about what he's doing. And it took me a minute. Okay, when I got there and I didn't see all the stuff that I wanted to see on stage, I was like, oh fuck. I was like, what is this going to be about? But like, I don't know, to be amazing. Like, I had one a really great show I saw. Um, I went mostly because I thought the singer songwriter was going to have this amazing band behind them, and I got there and I just saw a guitar on a stand, and I was like, oh no, it's singer songwriter night, and it was fabulous. It was a great show. I decided to be open minded. I didn't leave, and but I don't know. It's good to challenge yourself. It's hard to do sometimes because we are, as we kind of touched upon earlier, we're listening to the same things. We're going to our like, enjoying our comfort zones. We're like picking and choosing our version of escapism, and yeah, it's hard to,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Like I definitely challenged my musical taste when uh I got invited to go see Mastodon in Lamb of God.
nice.
Because I'm friends with Mastodon's drummer and he's really awesome. I asked him if we could, just hang out, and he was like, sure. So I took some friends, and I'd never listened to Lamb of God before. I just know that they're a very heavy band and much heavier than Mastodon. I like Mastodon because of their progressive rock elements and the incredible singing and the incredible flow, and ebb of the music. And so Lamb of God was completely new to me. And they were, it's pretty obvious that like a lot of the crowd was there for Lamb of God. And seeing a band like that, I was a little bit uneasy on what it was going to be like, but it was awesome. And
Yeah,
being with friends, I think really helps. Being with people that help you ease into it was great. And then also, it's also a little bit about the after experience, in terms of for concerts, right? If you go to a Waffle House after a concert, it really makes it for me. And it's
yeah,
really just it's the whole around bundle of joy when you do something for me, not just the activity. And for that show, yeah, I loved it. I have a Lamb of God sticker thing I'm gonna put on my phone now just because like I'm a pretty big fan now. They were on fire. Not
nice.
not mentioning the pyrotechnics, but like the
Yeah,
actual band was also just like insane.
that's awesome. Yeah, and like when you mention, Waffle House, for instance, I as we call that like the hang or whatever,
Yeah.
like um that is part of the night, and there are different ways, just like I said, like different ways of like consuming information and art and whatever. Like there are shows that are best attended with friends, and there's some shows that are really great in solitude.
Yeah,
And it's really cool, like the different experience, how different it can be.
exactly.
Um, because sometimes you want to just watch something without your friend whispering in your ear, and then other times you want to be like high-fiving every amazing moment of this like great band that you're
Mhm.
seeing. It's so interesting how like how these concert experiences change, but it is something about the whole night and how it wraps up that makes it like a memorable experience.
Exactly. And you know, like we touched on before in this line of work, it's so sick that I get to go to concerts on the band's dime and I get to bring some friends with me and we like to hang out and making the new friends is awesome. Getting to go to more concerts more often is really fun and very rewarding. But so yeah, I completely agree what you're talking about. Like I saw Swans in April to do an interview and I'm very glad I didn't take a friend with me because it really was like a semi-religious experience. It's, your body's trembling, and like I've touched on before, it's so loud. And so you're kind of ascending in a musical sense. And people don't talk about dynamics enough in music, I think, as an orchestral player, where dynamics was a big part in rock music and more mainstream types of music, the the big elating loud noises is really what makes music for me and what really it's like the parsley on top of a good dish that really just makes it, or the parmesan, the little
Yeah.
garnish on top that really makes it. And I'm so glad I didn't go with the friend because sometimes you need to experience that stuff by yourself, alone, just basking in the light, you know.
Yeah, and I agree with dynamics. Like the thing is there's something about experiencing something so beautifully quiet that's as amazing as something so amazingly overwhelmingly loud
Yeah,
that it's just they're two different things because it is you're like I'm not going to get into like physiology right now, but like like you're listening in different ways and your body's reacting in different ways like actually is like so what
yeah.
you're feeling when the music's loud is not just your ears being like this is loud. It's like a whole experience.
Yeah, it's your body shaking. It's seeing everyone else go crazy. It's, seeing
Yeah,
the musicians not be bothered. It's all just, it's like a fever dream.
yeah, it's definitely much more. But and there's something about like with really quiet music sometimes a really quiet show is like the it gets really you get really meditative in a certain sense when there's just so much focus on what's going on and there's no other like sonic distractions other than just hearing those instruments that are performed or the
Yeah.
vocal. And that's like another thing that like you dial in a certain way, your body dials in a certain way, your ears do, it's just it's a different experience. But I mean like I'm not like like I know some people who are like not into loud music. Like I crank stuff loud. I do. I try to protect my ears as much as I can because I have to for like mixing and stuff. But
Mm.
like I'm still traditionally someone who listens to stuff pretty loud. But
Yeah. And as a violinist, I have ears, that are ringing, and a guitarist, and protecting ears is really important. But I am a fan of really loud music in terms of vibration,
yeah,
Like sometimes there's a vibration. There's probably a scientific term for it, but there's like a certain decibel level where it just feels like an eargasm, where your ears just feel so it's ringing beautifully, and it all works out, and it just feels perfect. We gotta do some research on that or something because it's like it's happened at every show I've been to. There's a certain song and a certain note, and it just feels like a chef's kiss right there. And I'm not
yeah,
as into quiet music, but
yeah. I think what it. I saw um, someone interviewed kind of about this. What I think it is, it's actually not. It's not just your ears that are picking up the information of the um, the volume.
Show.
So
Yeah.
that's basically what's happening. That's why you're having the eargasm. It's like because you actually are, your body is perceiving it in all these different ways, or not even just perceiving it, is actually experiencing it all these different ways.
And that's why I think live music is so important. I mean, like one of
Yeah.
my mom's coworkers always talks about how concerts are a waste of money and time because you can just see it on YouTube or listen to it on Spotify. But it's cool we have those archival spaces, but there's nothing, it's no comparison to a live concert, whether it's, an arena show or if it's like a club show or it's like a freaking 3 a.m. after party with Dinosaur Jr., whatever it is,
Yeah.
it's all so much worth it. And no video or storytelling or article can ever come close to the experience. Like Swans. I love Swans so much. I talk about them a lot. All the, write-ups I've read of them are always so praiseworthy and so crazy in the words they use to describe these bands. And I really love journalism like that because it gives you some sense of what you're going to experience in a couple months, but it also helps you realize that it's a one-time experience. It's never going to happen again. Take it in, be present in the moment. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like I'm always really conscious of trying to be present during a show. Um, but sometimes you forget when
That's
you haven't
true.
when you stop going out as much. But I was at a show last weekend, and it was just like I was so engaged with what was going on, and it was a really beautiful experience. It was a pretty loud show, and and it was just I don't know. I don't know. I'm just kind of like reflecting as we're talking,
No, man,
uh, I feel like everyone should like try to pursue that. People need to see more live music.
for sure. And I mean,
I
I'm going
mean,
to be
it's
completely
expensive though.
honest.
It sucks.
Oh, continue?
Sorry, I was just saying it sucks how expensive it is, and it also
Yeah.
sucks that the artists don't really get paid that much anymore. But it's if I don't know, it's still worth it to go out.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And yeah, that's why I like having this gig is because I don't have to put that burden on my parents anymore. And, I wish I could support the artists, merch or whatever. And I try to like after the show online or whatever. But whenever I'm at a show on guest list or I have backstage passes or whatever, I think I really enjoy it more for what it is, and I'm more present, and I'm looking at the stage and I'm waving at the guy, and I feel like I'm more into it. But we have a minute left, and I don't want to get cut off by Zoom. It's been so cool talking to you. It really
Yeah,
has been.
likewise.
Your collaborators are awesome. Like, Steve Harrison, I've been trying to get an interview with. King Tough, he's a bud of mine. He's a friend of mine that I interviewed him a couple months ago. So it really is cool that you've done all this awesome stuff. And I'm in Atlanta, so I can't wait for you to stroll in, whether it's with your, solo work or with another band or whatever. But uh, nice talking to you, man.
Yeah, it was a pleasure. Thanks, man, for
It
having me
really
on.
was. Have a good day.
You too.